I want to show, talking of cauterising wounds, I want to show Maureen. Maureen, can we get Maureen back for a moment? I don't know if you've seen this, Maureen, but I've just written a column for the New York Post, and both you, me, and Douglas all write for the Post. I've just written about Kim Kardashian's derriere, which has now been appearing on the front cover of Interview magazine under the American Dream issue of Interview. We have to have this, apparently, as the emblem of the American dream. Kim Kardashian's gigantic, naked backside bearing off the magazine stands. As an American, do you see this image as the personification of the American dream?
Oh. You know, it's a specific kind of American dream. I think it's a kind of American dream that, you know, does share something in common with Meghan Markle. When you are devoid of really any talent or intellectual contribution to make, what do? You auto-generate your content. What is Kim Kardashian's content? It's her ever-evolving, uncanny valley kind of physicality. This isn't even new. She did this before. She was on the cover of Paper magazine, and her bum was, you know, out there and greased up, and it was shocking at the time. And I think that what is probably going to be shocking to Kim Kardashian is that these kinds of images they fail to shock any longer.
Exactly. You know? The only shocking thing is she kept some clothes on. Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. Exactly. I want to just mention another story before we finish with the pack. This extraordinary story of a school teacher in Ireland who's been imprisoned after refusing to use the pronouns requested by a trans student. Enoch Burke was initially suspended by Wilson's Hospital School in Dublin, saying the request was a violation of his Christian beliefs. He was then issued with an injunction and told not to attend the school after a public row with the head teacher. But he continued to show up. He's now been thrown in prison for contempt of court. Burke will now remain in prison until he, quote, purges his contempt, effectively apologises, or is freed by the court. Douglas Murray, we've talked a lot about free speech on this show, you and I. At the heart of this, I don't even agree with half the things this teacher seems to believe or think. But I respect his religious beliefs. It's a religious school, by the way. What I can't get my head round is that somebody who refuses to call a singular human being, by the way, they, which I have always found preposterous when there's one person, because he wouldn't use the right pronoun, he's now in prison, albeit for contempt, but the contempt was because he refused to back down on not being required to use this pronoun. What do you make of that?
Yeah, of course, it's ludicrous. Some people might have missed something very interesting that's happened in Ireland in the last couple of decades. After the church scandals of recent years, Ireland has effectively de-Christianized faster than any country I've ever seen. But, you know, you strip one religion out of a country, and it doesn't mean the country loses all sense of religion. Ireland also, perhaps faster than any European country I know, has gone straight for the religion of social justice warriorism. It's extraordinary to see it, the way in which it's vehemently advocated by politicians of almost every stripe, including former terrorists. And they all jump into this. They all jump into the pronouns business. Sinn Féin pretend that the armed struggle, and indeed Bobby Sands died for gay rights. I think Bobby Sands would have been a bit annoyed if you'd told him he was doing this for the gays. But anyway, they've rewritten their own history. They've got this massive religion of social justiceism there, and they're militant about it. They're quite as militant as they were in the past about Catholicism.
Yeah, but
men like this are the victims.
Yeah, let me bring in Grace. I mean, just whatever the debate about transgender, and I don't, you know, I have no problem showing full respect for transgender people to have full rights to equality and fairness. This whole thing with pronouns, the idea of a teacher actually ending up in prison because ultimately because he wouldn't say to a transgender student, you're called they.
Well, that's not why, was it? He ended up because he's in contempt of court, and that's something for the court to decide.
Because he refused
a liberal institution.
But he refused to back down on the principle of using a pronoun.
Who cares? If the kid
school cares, or he wouldn't be in prison.
Call him they. You know, the idea that Ireland's been like taken captive by social justice warriors, and the entire conversation is all about pronouns.
The guy's in prison.
It's absolutely ridiculous. Ireland is suffering with crises like a housing crisis that is one of the worst
a teacher
in the entire
in prison.
Grace, he's entitled to a religious belief. It's an employment matter. It's not a criminal matter where the bloke ends up in jail.
That's, again, for the court to decide. Like, it's, you know, if the student wants to be called they,
why should he?
They.
What?
Who cares?
Okay.
Deal with Ireland's housing crisis. Deal with the water crisis. Deal with the wages crisis.
Don't waste time putting people in prison for not writing a president.
All right, Grace.
Ever since the financial crisis.
You've got to call me hot. That's my pronoun.
If you, like, A,
go on.
Every time definitely not a protected characteristic.
Sorry.
Piers, if you want me to call you hot every time I come on the show, and you say, Grace, I'm going to let you talk about whatever I'm going to let you talk about the economy.
You're going to call me hot.
I'm going to let you not talk about Meghan Markle or pronouns. I'm going to let you talk about economics and climate change. I'll call you whatever you want, Piers.
Right, if you don't call me hot, you're going to jail. No, that's the way this works.
If it's okay with you, I'm not going to call you hot.
As a militant social justice warrior, it's probably where I belong anyway, isn't it? Like...
my pronouns on my Twitter profile are actually hot, hotter, hottest. So just for the record. I'm actually not joking. They are my preferred pronouns. Grace, thank you. Good to see you. Richard, thank you. Douglas, Maureen in New York, thank you both very much. Probably the finest Piers pack we've had so far, so thank you for that transatlantic orgy of intellectual intelligence. Much appreciated.